Hi, Joanne. How are you? Good to see you.
Good, thank you.
And Ivy and Rose. Hi, Barbara. Barbara
Hi.
from Montana again.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm very good. Is that a scene from Montana behind you?
That's a scene from my backyard.
Oh, that's nice. I used to have a backyard that looked like that, but my woods are full of ash trees and they are all dead or dying.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Rose.
And we had one right next door. My next door neighbor had one snap off the other night in a windstorm, so it's a little. We're gonna have to have a whole bunch taken down. My theory of diseased trees is take them down at your choice, right? The time you choose rather than the time they choose.
That's true. That's a good idea.
Especially if they can reach the house.
Absolutely.
Some of mine can. For those who have just joined us, we're having a little brief discussion about trees behind houses.
Hello, Rose. Can you
Hi.
hear me?
Yes.
You are host now.
Thank
Please
you.
start the recording of the session as well.
Thank you, Nancy. We'll start recording now. We have our great TA, Nancy. Thanks for being here. TAs are great help to the guides.
And make me co-host as well, please.
There you go.
Thank you so much.
Welcome, everybody. Hi, Pam. Good to see lots of familiar faces back for another evening of Rick Steves. Only a few more evenings left. Good to have everybody here with us this evening. We're going to give it about 2 more minutes for everyone else to join. Hope everyone's having a nice afternoon or evening wherever you are. It is evening here, 7 o'clock Eastern time. I attempted to do tonight's class from outside, but the setting sun was too bright in my face. Would have been nice, but good to see you all. Why don't you all put, folks don't mind putting the chat where you're from. I know some of you are familiar with each other, but it's nice, especially if we have new folks, to see where everyone is coming from. Pam is from Colorado. Remind me where in Colorado, Pam.
Franktown, which is just southeast of Denver.
Okay. Kathy's from Michigan. Mary's from Gainesville, Florida. And Joanne, as usual, is from Horseshoe Bay, Texas. Suzanne is from New York. Barbara's from Montana. Where in Montana, Barbara?
Red Lodge.
Red Lodge. Oh. And A. Rosend is from New York. Are you Rose? Is that your name? I feel like I know you. Welcome, everyone. We've got a few more joining. If you don't mind, those that have just joined, to put in the chat where you're from. Astrid. Okay, very good. Very nice. Let's see in the chat here. Any more localities? Well, tonight we're going to do Rick Steves in Festivals of Europe. And I have not done or been to any of the festivals that he is showing us tonight. But if any of you have been there, please tell us about it, or tell us about other festivals you've been to in Europe. I'd like to hear about it. One of them tonight, the Oktoberfest in Munich. I've been in Munich in October, after the Oktoberfest, which actually starts in September. And we were glad to miss the crowds. It was plenty crowded when we were there in October. Munich is a lovely city. Oh, give just a few more seconds for anyone else that wants to join us tonight. A lot of you, I recognize your names and faces from previous classes, but is there anyone who is new tonight? Let us know by raising your hand. Oh, Kathy, wonderful. Is this your first Get Set Up class? No, but you're new to this series. Wonderful. Glad to have you with us. We still have three more classes of Rick Steves after this, and we're switching to some other travel classes. Lots of travel classes coming up. And just keep an eye on the schedule. If we have time at the end, I'll show you how you can go and search on the website for classes about travel by searching under guide, which is me. I'm going to go ahead and start my screen share. By the way, Ivy mentioned she's from Houston. Okay, very good. And this is Festival Thursday. And tonight we're in Pamplona, Venice, Siena, and Munich, or München. I'm Russ Eanes, your guide. I'm from Harrisonburg, Virginia. I'm a writer, a walker, and a cyclist. I formerly was a book publisher, and as a book publisher, I love to help authors shape their ideas into a book. I love the energy I get and the wisdom I collect from working with older adults, and that's why I'm now a full-time guide with Get Set Up. At Get Set Up, we help you learn useful skills from people like you so you can do wonderful things. Hopefully you can do some traveling, and maybe some of the travel tip classes we're going to do. You'll learn some trips that'll make your travel easier in the future. We learn from each other. Ideally, we can see you and your cameras are on. You can request a recording of this class after the class. You email help@getsetup.io. If anyone is joining by live stream, the best way to participate is to join us and register for a class, and we are live streaming this class tonight. And lastly, Get Set Up's not paid to promote any specific products. We're just strictly an educational organization. Rick Steves came to Get Set Up on April 13th. You can still see a replay of that interview. In fact, I think there's one tonight at 9 o'clock. Maybe someone else knows. I'm pretty sure an hour after this class ends, I'm giving Eastern Daylight Times. An hour after this class ends is another Rick Steves, but I'll check that while we're watching the video just to be sure. And yeah, you can see it on Get Set Up TV if you don't want to watch it at that time that's being replayed. And it is also on the Get Set Up YouTube channel. You can find it there easily. I just found it last night. Rick Steves said in an interview, when he was asked about how the pandemic had affected his business, and he had kept his staff on, even though they had nothing to do because he had to cancel 30,000 people, refund 30,000 people for tours that were supposed to happen in 2020. And even though sales of his guidebooks dropped 90%, when he was asked about why he kept a staff on, he said, "Our mission is to inspire Americans to venture beyond Orlando. We owe it to our mission to still be around after this is done." He means the pandemic is done. "So America can be less fearful and open to the world with a mindset of building bridges instead of building walls." So that's a lot of what Rick Steves is about. It's a philosophy of travel. I really appreciate building bridges in our world instead of building walls. I'm going to stop for 1 second here so we can see Rick. It's a little, there's a different way to share my screen if we're going to watch a video. And let me do that. There we go. And let's head out with Rick to start in Pamplona.
Each country has its iconic celebration. In France, it's fireworks over the Eiffel Tower. In Italy, it's a crazy horse race. And in Spain, it's bullfighting. Next on our party tour, the biggest bull festival of all, Pamplona's Running of the Bulls.
Officially known as the Festival of San Fermin, the Running of the Bulls is perhaps Europe's greatest adrenaline festival. For 9 days each July, throngs of visitors, most dressed in the traditional white with red sashes and kerchiefs, come to run with the bulls and a whole lot more.
The festival, which packs this city, has deep roots. For centuries, the people of this region have honored Saint Fermin, their patron saint, with processions and parties. He was decapitated in the 2nd century for his faith, and the red bandanas you see everywhere are a distant reminder of his martyrdom. And you know, I don't think anybody on this square knows or even cares.
But at the Church of San Fermin, it's a capacity crowd, and there's no question what to wear for this Mass. To this day, locals look to Fermin, their hometown saint, for protection. Back out on the streets, it's a party for young and old. There's plenty of fun for kids, and towering giants add a playful mystique to the festivities. The literary giant Ernest Hemingway is celebrated by Pamplona as if he were a native son.
Hemingway first came here for the 1923 Running of the Bulls. Inspired by the spectacle, he later wrote his bullfighting classic, The Sun Also Rises. He said he enjoyed seeing 2 wild animals running together, one on 2 legs and the other on 4.
Hemingway put Pamplona on the world map. When he first visited, it was a dusty town of 30,000 with an obscure bullfighting festival. Now, 1 million people a year come here for one of the world's great parties. After dark, the town erupts into a rollicking party scene. While the craziness rages day and night, the city's well organized, and even with all the alcohol, it feels in control and things go smoothly. Amazingly, in just a few hours, this same street will host a very different spectacle. The Running of the Bulls takes place early each morning. Spectators claim a vantage point at the crack of dawn. Early in the morning? Nope. For many of these revelers, it's the end of a long night. The anticipation itself is thrilling. Security crews sweep those not running out of the way. Shop windows and doors are boarded up. Fencing is set up to keep the bulls on course and protect the crowd. The runners are called mozos. While many are just finishing up a night of drinking, others train for the event. They take the ritual seriously and run every year. At 8 o'clock, a rocket is fired and the mozos take off. Moments later, a second rocket means the bulls have been released. They stampede half a mile through the town from their pens to the bullfighting arena. At full gallop, it goes by fast. Bulls thunder through the entire route in just 2.5 minutes. The mozos try to run in front of the bulls for as long as possible, usually just a few seconds, before diving out of the way. They say on a good run, you feel the breath of the bull on the back of your legs. Cruel as this all seems for the bulls who scramble for footing on the cobblestones as they rush toward their doom in the bull ring, the human participants don't come out unscathed. Each year, dozens of people are gored or trampled. Over the last century, 15 mozos have been killed at the event. After it's done, people gather for breakfast and review the highlights on TV. All day long, local channels replay that morning's spectacle. The festival's energy courses through the city. Overlooking the main square, the venerable Cafe Iruña pulses with music and dance. While the masses fill the streets, VIPs fill the city's ballrooms. It seems everyone is caught up in this festival of San Fermin.
While Christians have celebrated Easter since ancient times, the festival itself actually has pre-Christian roots. And it's no coincidence that it happens at the start of spring. Like Christmas replaced the pagan festival of Saturn in the dead of winter, Easter likely replaced the celebration of Ostra, a pagan goddess of spring. It was a time of renewal, birth, and fertility.
Imagine the bleakness of winter in ancient and medieval times. The despair, the short days and long nights, barren fields, the hunger, and the cold. Imagine the need for a promise that summer will return, and the joy when finally the fields spring to life and once again bear fruit. Imagine also the comfort in knowing that God, or the gods, had not abandoned you and your family. Rituals, whether Christian or pagan, gave people hope, reminding them that the darkness of winter is always followed by life-giving spring.
The church wisely adapted the pagan seasonal calendar to fit the story it wanted to tell. It rebranded this winter season of scarcity as a time of purification for Christians and called it Lent. But before the deprivation of Lent, there was a rowdy period of anything goes. And this hedonistic fling is Carnival.
Perhaps the most famous European carnival festivals are in Venice. Venice, in the quiet of winter, lives up to its early name, La Serenissima, the Serene Republic. Visitors at this time of year bundle up and enjoy the city's chilly embrace. And each winter, Carnival casts a spell on Venetians and visitors alike. Following a tradition that originated in the 13th century, the city slips behind a mask of anonymity as Venetians promenade, pose, and pretend they're someone they're not. Authority is challenged, rules are broken. The goal? To indulge in everything that'll be forbidden in Lent. An elegant disguise is both transformative and liberating. But it's the mask, so symbolic of this enigmatic city, which feels like a cloak of invisibility. While the original 13th century masks had symbolic functions, today's costumes are more fanciful. While they all give a nod to tradition, many are more contemporary and colorful. Though the masks may have changed, the pleasurable appeal of anonymity has not. As dusk falls, the backstreets come alive with strangers. Now, as then, decadence rules the night. Like going anywhere else in Venice, getting to a carnival party often involves a vaporetto ride, walking through narrow streets, and crossing over canals on bridges. These Venetians have been gathering together to enjoy Carnival for 25 years. And just as generations of Venetians have for hundreds of years, they enjoy the privacy and comfort of an elegant palazzo. It's a time when friends take a break from the stresses of their composed, controlled lives to let a little fun and fantasy take over. In another palazzo off the Grand Canal, guests enter into a surreal world that could have been lifted right out of the 16th century.
Welcome, dear guests. Welcome, all my friends.
Behind their masks, people from bankers to bakers are equal. Tonight, no one knows who's who, and reality seems a distant dream. As it was centuries ago, what happens in Venice stays in Venice.
Across Europe, festival traditions go back centuries and are filled with time-honored pageantry and ritual. Entire communities hurl themselves with abandon into the craziness. There's no better example than here in Italy, Siena's Palio.
In this gorgeously preserved Tuscan hill town, the Middle Ages seem to survive in the architecture. Its towering City Hall tower fronts an elegant, shell-shaped main square, Il Campo. While its streets are peaceful, they contain a lively legacy of civic pride and independence. And twice a year, that spirit shows itself in a crazy horse race, as it has for 5 centuries. The city is divided into 17 neighborhoods, or contrada. These are autonomous, competitive, and filled with rivalries. In this densely populated city, most of the year, the contrada are almost indistinguishable. One small piazza or street looks much like the next. But as the Palio approaches, the battle lines are drawn. The distinctive flags and colors of each contrada line the neighborhood, showing their namesake mascot. Like turtle, eagle, dragon, and a fierce-looking dolphin. All year long, citizens prepare. Women lovingly stitch vests and banners. Neighborhood fathers coach kids in drumming and flag throwing. Any time of year, if you hear drumming, check it out for a taste of the Palio to come. And twice a year, each July and August, the entire city readies itself as 10 of the 17 neighborhoods, chosen by lottery, prepare for the big race. Its central square, Il Campo, is transformed into a medieval racetrack. Tons of clay are packed atop the cobbles. Padding is added to the treacherous corners. And bleachers and railings are set up in anticipation of the big day. While the horse race lasts only a couple of minutes, for the Sienese, the Palio is a way of life. For many, it's a philosophy. Locals joke that in Siena, you're born, there's the Palio, and then you die. While the jockeys, usually from out of town, are hired hands, the horses are the stars. Each neighborhood gets its horse through a lottery. They're then adopted and showered with love, respected as if special neighborhood citizens. They're groomed and washed and housed in stables right in the city center. In the days leading up to the race, they're frequently paraded through the streets for their admiring fans. As race day approaches, processions break out across the city. Locals belt out passionate good luck choruses. With the waving flags and pounding drums, it all harkens back to the Middle Ages, when rituals like these boosted morale before battle. Each contrada marches into Siena's ornate cathedral. The centerpiece of the parade is the actual Palio. That's the famed and treasured banner, lovingly painted and featuring the Virgin Mary, to whom the race is dedicated. The church is thronged as all the neighborhoods wave their stirring flags in unison to honor the Palio's procession to the altar. Here it's blessed as the crowd looks upon it reverently. Soon, it'll be awarded to the victorious contrada. With the horses and jockeys chosen and the Palio blessed and waiting for the winner, competing neighborhoods gather for big community dinners that last well into the night. Each banquet is beautifully situated in the heart of the district. It's a multi-generational affair with old-timers, the young, and the very young. There are rousing choruses all cheering their contradas. And little ones soaking up the centuries-old traditions. Even if I don't fully understand what's happening, the excitement is contagious and the wine is delightful. I feel privileged to participate in a scene that's changed little over the centuries. On the day of the race, those honored to represent their contrada put on elaborate medieval costumes and armor. This requires many assistants who not only help fit the clothing, but make sure it looks just as it did centuries ago. In full regalia, the contrada then process to the neighborhood church, where there's a colorful flag ceremony. Followed by a full-throated singing of the contrada's hymn. And finally, the traditional blessing of the horse by the priest. Go and return victorious, says the priest. Then, you guessed it, there's another procession, with more drums and flags as each contrada marches through Siena, eventually flowing together at the cathedral, where, before the bishop, they showcase their passion and talents. After all have gathered at the cathedral, there's one last grand parade through the canyon-like streets. With drums thundering, the people crush to join the scene. The town converges on its main square. And then, with what seems like all of Siena packed into the Campo, it's time for the race. Bleacher and balcony seats are expensive, but standing room with the masses in the square is free. A cart pulled by oxen carrying the coveted Palio banner enters. This only increases the crowd's anticipation. Then, 10 snorting horses and their nervous riders line up to await the start. The jockeying includes a little last-minute negotiating. It's complicated. Then, silence takes over. Once the rope drops, there's one basic rule. There are no rules. They race bareback like crazy while spectators go wild. With non-stop spills and thrills, life in Siena stops for these frantic 3 laps, just about 90 seconds. And Lupa, the She-Wolf district, wins. When the winner crosses the line, 1/17 of Siena, the prevailing She-Wolf neighborhood, goes berserk. Tears of joy flow. People embrace. The jubilation is over the top for both the winners and for the many neighborhoods joyously celebrating their rival contrada's defeat. The happy horde thunders through the streets and up to the cathedral. Once there, they pack the church, and the winning contrada receives the coveted Palio. Champions until the next race.
Of Europe's many great festivals, one of the wildest is Oktoberfest here in Munich. Germany's favorite annual beer bash originated about 200 years ago with the wedding reception of King Ludwig I. Ludwig's party was such a hit, they've been celebrating every year since.
Oktoberfest lasts for 2 weeks from late September into October. Filling a huge fairground under a dramatic statue representing Bavaria, locals set up about 16 huge tents that can each seat several thousand beer drinkers. The festivities kick off with grand parades through Munich heading toward the fairgrounds. The queen of the parade is the Münchner Kindl, a young woman wearing a monk's robe, riding the lead horse with her beer stein raised. With thousands of participants, the parade seems endless. you'll see traditional costumes from every corner of Bavarian society. Elaborately decorated horses and wagons, along with keg-filled floats from each of the city's main breweries, entertain the crowds while making their way to the festival grounds. Revelers fill massive tents awaiting the grand opening. After trotting through much of Munich, the parade finally enters the fairgrounds. Dignitaries are formally greeted, and another Oktoberfest begins. From now on, for the next 2 weeks, it's a beer-fueled frenzy of dancing, music, food, and amusements. There's no better place to see Germans at play. The tents are surrounded by a fun forest of amusements. There's a huge Ferris wheel. The Five Loops roller coaster must be the wildest around. For locals and tourists alike, the rides are unforgettable, and probably best done before you start drinking your beer. Inside the tent, the party rages day and night. Bavarian culture is strong here. Each of the tents has a personality. Some are youthful, some are more traditional. It's a festival of German culture. While there are plenty of tourists, it's really dominated by locals who look forward to this annual chance to celebrate Bavaria and its beer. Fast-moving waitresses hoist armloads of massive glasses. The beers are served in cherished glass mugs, each holding a liter of their favorite local brew. The people-watching, Germans letting their hair down, is itself entertaining. It's a slap-happy world of lederhosen, dirndls, fancy hats, and maidens with flowers in their hair. It's a multi-generational blowout, complete with schmaltzy music and lots of new friendships. Rivers of beer are drunk and tons of food are eaten. Radishes, pretzels, lots of sausage, all served by saucy maids. While I was too tipsy to count, locals claim there are 6 million visitors, 7 million liters of beer drunk, 500,000 chicken cooked, and 100 oxen eaten. That's one truly memorable festival.
Well, I really personally enjoyed the horse race in Siena and the Oktoberfest. Anybody here been to any of those festivals? Nobody? Oh, that's surprising. I've been to Pamplona and I've been to Munich. In fact, I think I know the streets that the bulls were running down because the center of the old cities of Pamplona is not that big. I passed through there when I was on the Camino de Santiago in 2018, and we did walk much of the city in an evening while we went to some tapas, some bars for tapas, and we also saw the Central Plaza. So I think I know those streets that the bulls are running down, but doesn't look like a festival I would want to go to. I didn't enjoy the bulls getting hurt or the people getting hurt by the bulls. When we were in Munich, and by the way, if you come Friday morning at 11, I'll be talking about a free city tour of York, England, and Munich. I'll share some of the things I learned about Oktoberfest there. But one thing our tour guide told us was that while it's true that Oktoberfest is a festival, it's a few hundred years old, has its origins in that wedding feast, it was largely revived after the Second World War for the sake of American servicemen who were stationed around Bavaria. And the Germans want to they want to kind of revive a festival for their sake. So but 6 million people, I think that's more than live in Munich. So I think they do have a lot of tourists and visitors from everywhere. Anybody got any other festivals, if they haven't been to any of those, that they want to talk about going to or having been at in Europe? Go ahead and just unmute yourself. There aren't that many. We can see everybody here.
I know we left Munich before Oktoberfest on purpose. Because, in fact, the tour guide that we had through the city said he was getting out.
That's about what our tour guide said. We did see the area where they have the festival. It was empty. It actually starts at the end of September.
Yeah, we were there then.
When I was in Italy in 2019, we happened to be there in Assisi for the Feast of St. Francis, his birthday, October 3rd. And so we did see a procession very similar to what they were showing tonight, going through Siena with the flags and the drums and the uniforms and the costumes, I should say, not uniforms, and including some impressive drum work. Almost a concert in drums in the central square. So I really enjoyed that. And I have to admit, I would find it fun once to put on one of those suits of armor just to see what it feels like to have on. How you carry all that weight around. I did feel sorry for the horses. I was hoping that none of them got hurt. And that is it, because it looked real kind of narrow running around through some of those streets. Looked like none of the horses got hurt, but looked a little bit dicey going around. But the Italians sure do know how to celebrate. And the Germans.
I was going to mention that I've got limited European travel, but primarily to Hungary, and they have their national celebration, or like our Independence Day in August. And so one of the trips happened to coincide with that, and thousands and thousands of people lined the Danube and watched fireworks being shot off all the bridges and also off of boats. And they have music, on speakers all the way along. So, it's all choreographed. So that was just like fireworks. That was a tremendous experience.
I can believe it would be. That's a place I'd like to visit someday. Daniela. Oh. Our family had a Hungarian exchange students nearly 30 years ago, so we learned a lot about Hungary, including the fact that Budapest is pronounced Budapest, and it's two cities, Buda and Pest. And also that when the Hungarians give names, they give the family name first and then the Christian name second. So we had a student named in English Peter Palankas, or Palinkas, as some people called him. And in Hungarian, he was called Palankas Peter. So we enjoyed learning those differences. And I do believe he mentioned those celebrations at the festival that you mentioned. Anyone else been to festivals in Europe, or could be somewhere else that you'd like to mention that you experienced? I know we have some seasoned travelers out there. I'm wondering about Joanne, if she's seen any, because she's been to a lot of places. Well, if we have no more talk about festivals, I'm going to take a moment and show you, in case you don't know, perhaps you know where to find all the classes on the Get Set Up website, but I'll show you how you can find a lot more of the travel classes coming up. And by the way, our TA, Nancy, helpfully put in the chat the message about where and when you can watch the Rick Steves replay tonight, which is at 10 p.m. Eastern time. I believe that's what it says there. So I looked it up. Yes, 9 p.m. Central time. That's right, 10 p.m. Eastern time if you want to see the Rick Steves interview replay, and it was really good if you haven't seen it. I'll do a screen share here a second and show you on the website where to find more about Get Set Up classes. And we'll leave Rick Steves there for a minute. We'll put in Get Set Up. And this is what everyone's homepage should look like. When you come in, it tells you how many classes you've been, what's your active days, how many. I guess this is the number of classes taken here. These are the number of days that you've taken those classes over, and this is how many minutes. And so they're considered wellness minutes. And if you would like to know about travel classes, and you know that I'm a guy that does travel, you can put in Russ, RUSS, and it'll bring a drop down right there. So you can see a lot of upcoming classes, top 10 travel tips, pilgrimage in Italy, Rails to Trails Adventure, free city tour, that's Friday. Foodie Wednesdays, that's tomorrow. We do have some guest speakers coming up in travel. By the way, next Monday will be Frank and Joanne Kohler talking to us about Cuba. Tomorrow, I do have a class on how to show you travel photos. So if you pull the drop down on a guide, you can just click on that. And there's the class right there. Tells you all about it. And you can see that there are still 16 seats left. And if you want to book it, you just click on book like that. And if you hit this button right here, you can add it to your calendar so you get a reminder for it. And if you would like to invite a friend, you can click on this right here, and you can either copy the link to a class by pressing on this button, put it in an email or a text or whatever you want to do, or you can invite them by email by just putting your friend's email right there. So that's a fairly new feature. So we like to be able to share classes. Share about classes. There's more about the guide here. And this is another way you can see the other classes that I teach. They're in here underneath about the guide, other classes I teach. So you can see the whole range of classes that you can do. And you can see right here that here's traveling solo, by the way. We should check that class out. There's one seat left. So if you're interested in coming to the class tomorrow at 2:30 about traveling solo, this is your time to get out there and register for it. We've got 3 learners who are going to come be part of a panel discussion with us. Regina Porter, Randy Dykehouse, and our third panelist won't be able to make it tomorrow. She's not feeling well, Rosa. But I hope when we do the class again next week, we'll be able to have Rosa join us for the panel discussion. And this was one of the most asked about classes from learners. So you asked and we listened, and we're doing a class on solo travel. We're also doing a class on traveling safely, being able to travel safely. And also several of you have asked about how to use Airbnb to find lodging. So I'm preparing a class to come out in about 2 weeks about how you can use Airbnb to find lodging. I love it when you request classes or give us ideas. There is always an email that comes out to you after the class when it's over. And in that email, there's a chance to give us feedback. I love feedback. Tell me ways to make our classes better. I'm always paying attention to that every day. And you can also suggest classes to us. We have lots and lots of travel classes coming up. So keep your eye out. Just put in my name and you can see the classes that are coming up. About 10 a week we're going to be doing. Next week, by the way, we won't be doing Rick Steves anymore. Rick Steves will be done, but we'll be looking more at Latin America. We're going to give Europe a rest for just a little while. Besides, we can't really go to Europe very many places at the moment. So we'll be looking at Cuba on Monday. We'll be looking at some foods in Mexico. If any of you know about Oaxaca, that is supposed to be one of the great destinations for food and other things and indigenous culture in Mexico. Also, we've got a learner that wants to do a class on Bulgaria. She is from Bulgaria, and I've now seen that Bulgaria is one of the countries that's on a list of places that is safe for Americans to go. So come join us when Daniela does her class in late May, early June on Bulgaria. Any more questions or comments from the class? Any more suggestions tonight? You've been a great group with us this evening, and many of you have watched a lot of the Rick Steves travel series. Tomorrow night we'll be doing more cuisine across Europe. Again, I recommend that you come having eaten supper before you watch this. It is a particularly good one, scrumptious and delicious.
Yeah, I was real excited when I saw the solo travel.
Good.
And I've already booked for that.
Thanks, Mary. I look forward to seeing you in that class. It's a great group we've got coming as a panel. We also have many other experienced solo travelers who are not on the panel because they've been telling me about their solo travel experiences in our classes. So also they can give some input. We'll be repeating that class again the week after next. So glad to next week. Sorry, this is the next Wednesday. Look forward to seeing you there tomorrow, Mary, and anyone else who's registered for the class. One more seat. So if you haven't had a chance to sign up and you want to do it, go ahead and grab that seat now. Well, thanks for being with us this evening, everybody. I sure enjoyed seeing you all, and hope you have a wonderful evening.
You too. Enjoyed
You
the
too.
tour.
So long.
Bye.
And thanks, Mary, our TA, for being with us. Good night, everybody.
Good